Hello there. How is everybody today? All who are watching. I am Steve Lorello. I am the .NET developer advocate here at Redis, and I'm back in my office as opposed to last week where I was just around the house on my laptop. Interestingly, last week my air conditioner cut out on Wednesday, and then we got it fixed, and then just now it's starting to cut out again. So this will be interesting. You might see me sweat a little bit. If you do, it's because the AC went out and it's 90 degrees upstairs. So just sort of bear with me. Today we are going to be continuing to look at the CLI tool for Redis.io. So let me go ahead and sort of show off what that is. Screen share, screen one. So if I hide this now and I go to Redis.io, you'll see this neat little CLI tool kind of pops up whenever we open up Redis.io. And you can, ping Redis, you can set something in Redis, you can get it. You can, do a SAD, the saddest of commands, to my set and foo bar. And I can check to see if foo is in my set. This just gives you a nice little quick and dirty tool to use when you're trying to test out commands. And you'll see that it's actually embedded in all the command pages in Redis.io. In all the command pages that actually make sense to have it embedded. So if I looked at the set command page, you'll see that there are a few set commands that get run with a get and all that stuff like that. And what we started working on last week and what we're going to kind of continue on today, and just bear with me. This might be a slightly abbreviated stream just because it's going to be kind of warm up here in about an hour, but I figure it's better to do it up here than downstairs. I feel like I'll get more done up here. We're going to try to add the Redis stack commands to Redis.io's CLI tool. So right now, if you go into the normal Redis commands, many of the Redis commands that are sort of sensible to be supported by Redis.io are already supported. But for those who are not aware, we have a whole set of other commands down here. The Redis stat commands, they start after like the Z range stuff. So Z union store is actually the last alphabetically Redis command. And then we get into the Redis stat commands. This has all kinds of things like Bloom filters and Cuckoo filters and time series and indexes and graphs and all that good stuff. All the good stuff that we talk about when we talk about Redis stack. You just can't do any of it right now with Redis.io because Redis.io doesn't support any of the Redis stack commands. And I actually have this pull request open in the Redis ClinterWebs repository to support these commands. So you'll see if you went over to Redis ClinterWebs and you looked at poll 15, I've already kind of got this going in here. And we're going to be building off of this today. So if I open WSL and I go to CD projects, Redis ClinterWebs, do git status in here. I actually had a different one, so I'll just do a git hard, git checkout main, and git checkout master. Actually, git reset clear, and I do a git branch. You'll see that I have this Redis stack branch here. I think probably the origin is set to my my upstream repository slorello89. It's set to my fork, so I don't have to worry about any of that. But if I do a git checkout stack, see if I can try to get the AC started again. Hold on. I have this little mini split unit up here that's just been kind of not cooperating the last week or so. I think what I think it is. It's been cooler the last couple of days here, and it hasn't had any real meaningful issues. There's an issue with the inverter on the compressor, and today, I guess around like 1, when I live in Central Florida, so like the peak of the heat of the day is around like 1 o'clock. Um, Today around 1, when the heat really peaked, it started like acting up again. So let me see if I can get it to come back on without that inverter error. It just seems to like, oh, I have to restart it a couple of times and it eventually will come on. At least for a little bit, like maybe 5 minutes or so, which is enough to cool it down a little bit up here. But I'm in this Redis stack branch now. And if I open this up in VS Code, first thing I need to do is go up here and change this to localhost colon 5000. And then in my Docker compose file, I'm just going to just comment out the Nginx and Flask app portion of this. And I'm going to do a Docker compose build the two Redis images together and do a Docker compose up. And that'll run the two things for me. And of course, I forgot to kill the instance of Redis stack that I had running already. So let me kill that real quick. That'll run the two things for me. Now, I can launch an instance of this app over to localhost 5000. Set already. And now I have the app kind of already up and running. And sort of what I've been doing already is I've been adding these commands. So if I do a bf.reserve, bf, I think it's like 0.01 1000. I think we'll do it. Yeah, there we go. I can then do like a bf.add, bf foo bar as. Maybe it's, I might actually spell that. I can do an madd, and then I can do a bf.exists, bf foo, and that'll tell me whether the thing has been added yet or not. But yeah, fundamentally, this lets me, actually now run some Redis stack commands. Now, the interesting thing though about Redis stack is that, and some of the Redis generic commands too, is that they're not always necessarily like super safe to run. To allow people to just arbitrarily execute them against Redis. And the way we account for that, let me turn my focus assist on. Only, thank you. The way that we can account for that is by setting up our ACLs to block anything that's not safe, right? So if I go into the Docker files in here or the Docker builds for Redis stack and Redis stack and Redis. So like I have Redis and Redis stack running as separate Docker containers in here. And if I look at this ACL file here, you see that I've actually set up a bunch of different commands as either acceptable or unacceptable. So like copy is a dangerous command, sort is a dangerous command, keys is a super dangerous command. You don't want people to be able to arbitrarily run that against your instance of Redis. Any of the blocking commands are considered dangerous. And then you can also, of course, enable whole regions of ACL tags like strings or geos or hashes or bitmaps and stuff like that. And what I've kind of done so far is just kind of naively went in and said, all right, I think that these are all the Redis commands that I am sort of worried about or not worried about people using. And in the case of the Redis stack commands, I just kind of blindly went through and wrote most of them out in here. And I've just been kind of gradually going through these and being like, yeah, maybe it doesn't make sense to have that in there. Maybe that doesn't actually exist in the key space. Maybe that command needs a little bit more filtration when it gets down to the lower levels of the stack. Now, what I've done, what I did last week, I want to say I did Cuckoo filters, maybe. No, I don't think I did Cuckoo filters last week. I think I did maybe top Ks. What did I do last week? It's the last commit on here. Countman sketch. I did Countman sketches. Right. Yeah. So last week I did the Countman sketch, and I did a Cocoa filter. Yeah. So basically, for the Cocoa filter, we used like what the actual bit size would be. I think I can find it to like maybe a couple kilobytes or something like that. You don't want people being able to create arbitrarily large Cocoa filters in Redis. It's not great to allow people to do that. You don't want them to be able to fill up a lot of memory at the same time, because what this does when you call one of these reserve commands, it literally reserves in memory the amount of data that's needed for that data structure. So you don't want to leave that open ended for a user to arbitrarily execute against any instance of Redis that you might be running this against. So we have Cocoa filters in here, CMS is in here. Previously, I've done Bloom filters. So I think what's left to do is probably let's do top K today. I think top K is probably a valid one to take a look at. So let's start looking at top Ks. So for anybody who doesn't know what a top K is, and I guess I have no reason to believe anyone here would know that, but a top K is a data structure that lets you look at heavy hitters within Redis. So like say you have a stream of data and you have a ton of individuals of the sea being hit that are like it's a leaderboard basically. So it's if you have so say you're managing a server farm somewhere and you see a lot of traffic coming in and you are curious about like what are the 10 heaviest hitting IP addresses that are hitting my data center. Well, Top K is actually a pretty good data structure to use for that because you can insert a bunch of individual records into it, and it can observe for you. Oh, what are the heaviest hitters that are hitting this thing um, in a relatively compact and quick data structure? But what we want to do is we want to make sure that the top K is actually going to be kind of safe to run against Redis clincher webs. And to do that, we probably need to look at and see, oh, what is a top K reserving when you call top K.reserve? And I actually don't know this. I actually don't know the answer to this. So we're going to discover this today. And we're going to make a determination as to whether or not we can even support it. So let's see. Initializes a top K with a specified parameters. Key under which the sketch is to be found. Top K, the number of recurring items to keep. With the number of counters kept in each array, defaults 8. Depth is the number of arrays, 7. Decay, probability of reducing a counter in an occupied bucket is raised to the power of the counter. So one of this is kind of similar to Countman sketch. I guess probably trial and error is a good way to check that. So you know what? I'm going to kill those two instances of Docker, and I'm going to run an instance of Redis stack. Docker run -d-p 6379:6379 Redis stack server. I don't know that I have any old top Ks. And if I go into here, let's say, okay, top K reserve key top K with depth decay. Okay, so the probability of reducing a counter in an occupied bucket as the counter gets higher, the chance of reductions become reduced. Defaults to 0.9. Okay. So I guess that's probably somewhat relevant, but I think the most relevant two are width and depth. I would guess that even the top K is not that important because I think it just uses a min heap at the end of the day. So, and of course, we might have to do an RTC here. We might have to read the code. So let's do top K dot reserve TK, and then 10, and then let's just say 20, 20, 30, oh, 0.9. Okay. Now, what happens when we do memory usage? Okay. So about 5 kilo. No, it's not kilobytes. No, it is 5 kilobytes. So 5 kilobytes. That's not that unreasonable, I guess. So what is that? 20 times 20 is 400 times 10. Is that actually how that works? Top K, reserve, TK 1, 20, 20, 20.9. Memory usage, TK2. 1. No, it doesn't seem to be like scaling linearly with that. Oh, wait a second. Because those counters are probably 64-bit integers. So what's 20 times 20 times 8 is 3200. And then there's probably some vector that it's raised to. Maybe it's just easier if we look at the code for this. So if we go to Redis Bloom, let's see. So top K create. So it takes K width and depth and decay. Okay. So then it allocates depth times width. Right. Size of bucket. So these are the two allocations that it does. So bucket is probably dividing the header. Oh, 4 buckets. So UN32 under T. So 2 UN32s basically. So yeah, 64 bytes or 64 bits. So yeah, that's the 8 times width times depth. So that's 20 times 20 times 8. And then this allocation here is probably also defined here. So that's 8. So it's 64 on 96. And then 8. So that's 104 bits. So 104 bits. I'm just trying to understand here what the allocations look like times K. So 104 bits divided by 8 is 13. So 13 times 20, so 260 bytes for the 20 bits. All right. And then it has some extra overhead, it looks like, that it needs to allocate to. So size of a top K, so that's probably just the random bits that are part of this thing and directly accessible from it. So it looks like the important thing is 104 divided by 8, so that's 13 times the bucket size, or the type K. So that's 13 times 20 bytes for that, and then 20 times 20 times 8 for the width and depth. So realistically, what this allocation calculation looks like is the K times 13 plus width times depth times 8 bytes. And this is the factor that's going to increase with the top K. So that actually kind of makes sense. So what we looked at before, and then there's just like plus some extra for the data structure that isn't variable, that it's just like, oh, this is setting its own depth and decay and all that stuff. And that's some extra factor. So realistically here, we're talking about 260 plus 20 times 20 times 8. No, 20 times 20 times 8. That's 3,200 plus 260. That's 3,460. We're still missing something here. What am I missing? Is it really like an extra 2,200 bytes? Is it that heavy? I don't think so. Maybe it is. So we have 5,800 with a top K of 20. So let's just do a TK reserve here. Make that 21. Let's do a memory usage on TK2. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty sensible, right? It's pretty close to what we thought. Maybe this is a little bit, maybe I'm underestimating how big the heat bucket is. Oh, because you probably need another word to allocate the memory address to. So that's probably it. Okay, so I think we have a pretty decent idea of how these things scale. So with that, we can actually go off and make some determination as to what we're going to allow it to reserve. And I guess the next thing to do is to check to make sure there's no like interesting other way to reserve a top K in here. So top K add looks like it just takes a bunch of items, top K count. Increbuy doesn't. Info, nope. List, nope. Query, nope. So it's just top K reserve we have to worry about. That's the only one that's kind of dangerous to use in ClinterWebs. So let's go ahead and go back into the, I think it's probably, so sanitize right here. So let's do a def verify top K. And then I'll just take the argv lower. Oh, I just really need argv, right? I really just need argv here. I don't need to know the command name because it's going to be reserved. And we know exactly what the order the arguments are going to be. So the order of the arguments, so 1, 2 is k. Then 3 and 4 are the width and depth. And those are the three that we care about. So k equals argv sub 2. And then if len of argv greater than 3, 2, 3, yeah, then it has to have 3 and 4, right? So just say that, oh yeah, we could just say that width is 0 and depth is 0. And then if length of argv is greater than 3, we know that width has to equal argv of 3. Oh, by the way, we have to convert all these to integers. And depth has to equal int argv of 4. So sorry. So now we have all three of the things that we need in here. So let's look at our little equation again. Well, really the only part that we care about here are bytes. See, I'm just like writing C# here. Bytes required equals that. And yeah, that's kind of all we really need. But wait, you know what? I just thought of something. Does that actually make sense? So the heap bucket here, 2 uint32s. So that's 4 and 4, 8. Counter T is another 4. And a charge is going to be 1. So that's 13 bytes. Okay. So that's right. I feel like I'm just missing something. Something super obvious. Just doing something other than calling just module calloc. Right. Count and size. So 13 bytes per K. So 13 times K. Yeah, no, that sounds right. Okay. I think I'm right about that. So we already have like a number of bytes, well, bits that are allowed for something. Really easy to calculate. And then we can just say if bytes required greater than bytes allowed, we could just say return f. I actually don't need the command name here. I just say top k dot reserve less more than allowed bytes. That's good. Is bytes required. Only bytes allowed. And that'll say allowed on the interwebs or something to that effect. So if I need to drop out of this now. I need to open up kill SQ and just do it Docker compose up again. Run it, and I can go back over to localhost colon 5000. Presumably. I haven't started the web app yet. Oh, and it would probably help if I actually checked for the top K reserve. So elif command name equals top K reserve. Return verify top K and just pass an argv. Now it's showing in here, so great. And I can do top K reserve and pass in K and then 10. That should work. But if I try to do top K2 and pass in 10 and 500, it'll tell me that you're asking too much here. We only allow you to request, 128,000 bytes, and you're requesting, 2 million bytes, it looks like, if you're trying to do that. So perfect. That is exactly what we needed from this thing. To validate that we're not going to allow anybody to kind of overtake this system. And no one's gonna be allowed to make a top K that's too big for ClitterWebs to handle. Anyway, so that's top K, and that only took about 20 minutes. I think the next data structure to look at might actually not be in Bloom anymore. It might be in time series now. Let me look at the data structures real quick. So, top K, tdigest, I actually don't know anything about, and I just kind of left it out because I don't know if it's been GA'd yet. Maybe it has been GA'd. Releases. I don't think it's quite been GA'd yet. It's just like kind of a preview feature, I think, at this point. So we're not gonna bother with tdigest, even though it's in the commands here. But we've done Bloom filters, we've done Cuckoo filters, we've done count and sketch, we've done graph. Or we haven't done graph. But we're not going to do graph, I don't think, because graphs don't really exist in the key space, so it's more difficult to evict them if there's an issue with them. We could do JSON next. Actually, JSON might make sense to do next because time series, I think we're going to run into some interesting problems. Just because of the way that label querying works. Maybe we just disable label querying and you know what? Actually, yeah, let's do time series next because that's actually one that I like to have fun with, and I think it's interesting, and I think it's kind of easy to work with. And, the only difficulty is that the labeling thing and filters are not going to work out that well. Hold on, I gotta reset the AC again because it's gonna start getting warm up here again. Hold on, just give me a minute. I had to shut it down. For those of you who are just joining, I live in Central Florida, and apparently when I'm about to stream, my air conditioner doesn't like to work that well. So I'm kind of minute to minute here whether the compressor is going to turn off on my air conditioner, and I work in the only upstairs room in my house, so it gets 100 something degrees up here, but it's really warm in the summertime. So yeah, so let's go ahead and do time series next. Mm. That's kind of nice. Well, this is not so nice. The scrolling bar here is not working. It's not ideal. Let's look at the thing here. So ts.create. Well, I guess I'll go through the commands while I have everybody here that's actually watching this. So time series basically just collect a series of numerical data in as it changes over time. So like a great example would be like stock prices or maybe temperatures, which is pretty prescient right now for my situation, but um, things that like you can condense down to single numbers that happen over time. You can collect into a time series. And then those time series, you can use these compaction rules to spawn other time series that will have like cool compacted aggregated data in them. And you can relate time series to each other using labels and query filters and stuff like that. But right now, I think we're just going to look at kind of getting up and running with just a basic time series. And looking at this, I think the way to go here is to not allow, is just to allow people to create time series. Maybe, oh yeah, set the duplication policy probably. I don't see why you wouldn't allow that. Chunk size. What's chunk size? Thinking we don't allow chunk size. Yeah, I say no to chunk size. Duplication policy. Yeah, we can set that. And I say no to labels because I don't think labels is something we're going to be able to at this point support on in ClinterWebs. And the reason why is that like everything is sharing a single instance and everything is namespaced. So like all of the keys are namespaced to each other, and like namespacing the labels is gonna not work that well. I guess you could do it, but it just becomes difficult to manage. Maybe we could. Nah, I don't think so. I think that's going to be like a lot of work, and I don't think it's going to be that. I don't think it's going to work that well if we do it like that. All right. So encoding specifies a series encoding format as one of the following values: compressed or uncompressed. Keeps the raw samples in memory. Adding. All right. So I think yes, I'll disallow encoding too. So I'll disallow encoding, chunk size, and labels with this thing. And I suppose I can allow retention, but up to a certain level. So is a retention is the maximum age for samples compared to the highest reported timestamp. In milliseconds, samples are expired based solely on the difference between their timestamps and times past in this subsequent. Oh, yeah, I guess that's actually not that important. I can leave this kind of open ended because no one's interacting with the time series anymore. It's just going to sit there until it's evicted. So I think that's fine. So we'll allow retention. We will allow duplication policy, but we'll disallow labels. Okay, I think that's fair. So we'll start off. So def verify ts create the lower. And I think that there are insert things in here that allow you to basically mimic it. Yeah, so like add will allow you to sugarcoat like an add and ts.create. So I don't know. I think I'm probably going to need the command name too because I'm going to need the context off which it was operating. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so I'm going to need the command name. Now, all right, so if command name equals ts.create, I need to turn my phone on do not disturb mode. So if command name is ts.create, we really just need to make sure that it doesn't have encoding, it doesn't have chunk size, it doesn't have labels. So if so the chunk size and argv lower, legal arguments that append chunk size. If I guess actually I don't need the command name now that I'm thinking about it. I don't need a command name for that. Okay. So if encoding is in argv lower, then we say that this is not allowed. So the arguments that append So if that's in there, then we're going to add labels to here. Now, if length of illegal arguments is greater than 0, return so if there's a single one, I guess we just return the first. Not allowed. That doesn't say it's exactly 1. That should do it. So ts.create ts weird. Oh, well, okay. I don't have the command name anymore, so there's no need for that. Yes, that worked. Maybe it'll look prettier if it's like this. So argument labels is not allowed on the interwebs, exactly what I'm looking for. And then edit labels and okay. Arguments, encoding, and labels are not allowed on the interwebs. Perfect. Exactly what I'm looking for. Now, what else is there in TS? So TS add has all that same stuff, so we don't have to worry about that anymore. TS alter. Okay, so I can add TS alter to this too, and it would just work the same. We're getting to that perilously close point where it just makes more sense to put everything in an array. Check it. It's getting warm up here. The dog literally just left because she got too hot to be up here. Try to turn this thing back on. Yeah, I'll give that a couple minutes. Yes, alter TS create rule. I think we should just reject because it's going to kind of allow you to arbitrarily create new time series that compact very quickly. I think that's kind of not great to have on here. So to do that, to remove that capability, go to ts.create. Explicitly remove it from consideration. And now if I'm probably gonna have to stop that and do another one of those Docker Compose ups and then restart this. Load this page. But when I do that, I should probably just be able to do ts.create rule. Just take an example here, which it has done. Okay. ts1, ts2. Duration is the number of seconds between compactions. Okay. Milliseconds. Oh, interesting. The key does not exist. Okay. Well, I think that's because of the way it's namespacing it, right? I mean, not that that really matters because we don't want this to work anyway. Oh, that's, that actually creates an interesting question though. Let's divert real quick and have a little bit of fun here. So, and so let me go in and take a look at ts.create rule. I think it's command get keys, right? And then I can just do ts.create rule, ts:1, ts:2, some. Ooh. Oh. So it's saying that only ts1 is a key. Okay. Well, that is that actually sounds valid because ts2 is not a key yet, but it's a destination key. I have to take a note of this. But this is saying it doesn't actually recognize ts1 as the source key, which is problematic to an extent. Oh, I see. Oh, I know what happened. I think. Hmm. I mean, it looks correct. Maybe I've got something wrong here. Hold on. Monitor this. Okay. I mean, it looks right. If I did a ts.create ts2, no, there's no who am I. Auth. Okay. And now, is that going to work? Okay. Well, I mean, it shouldn't work because it's not. Oh, because I had to rebuild the Docker image. That's why. Okay, but TS2 has to exist. So if we ever have to be able to support creating rules in here, we're gonna have to figure that out. But that's actually not a big deal. So let me take this down and then do a Docker compose down, Docker compose build, Docker compose up. And then if I create this now, if I rerun this, should say, yeah, user has no permissions, which is what we're looking for. Okay. So that's TS create rule. So Decker by also has those. Del doesn't. Delete rule. I guess we can remove delete rule for good measure, even though it's not really relevant. Oh, I guess it's not even in there, so easy enough. Get doesn't have anything. Increbuy has something. So info doesn't. Madd doesn't. Mget that's labels. Oh, you know, mget's probably gonna be pretty not useful, so I'll remove mget too. Mget relies on labels, which I don't think we're able to support at this point. Same thing with mrange or mrange, or probably query index for that matter too, right? Yeah, query index is a filter. Basically anything that's dependent on labels. Not be able to use. Yeah. Yeah, so the incr by and decr by, we have to add to the sanitization workflow here. So it's create, add, alter. Then ts.incr by, ts.decr by, those are the relevant ones. Hope it's in there. We have to scrutinize it. Otherwise, we're good to go. We don't have to worry about it. So I'll do ts.by ts1 with including. Basically just to validate that it's not allowing it to happen. But if we just do a ts.create, if we do this in good faith and say ts.create ts:1, ts.add ts:1 star 5 4, and we do like a ts.get ts:1, we can actually get the latest records. We can do a ts range ts:1 plus. Yeah, so we can actually use this thing pretty sensibly. So that's time series. I would continue on with Jason today, but it's actually starting to get really hot up here. So I think I'm actually going to call it for the day after this. So I'm going to go ahead and commit everything we've done so far. No. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. No. Git commit. So I had a top K. We did top K. We did time series. And top K time series. Let me get push. Yeah, I think I'm going to call it after this. Like I said, my AC is not really working up here, and I live in Central Florida, so it's getting really hot up here, and I'm actually starting to sweat. Folks probably can't see it, but yeah, it's just one of the slightly annoying things is that my AC has not been working the last couple of days. So I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. There are definitely more streams coming up. So if you go into developer.redis.com and you find how to get involved here, you look at Redis Live. I have been streaming every week for a while now. Guy streams every week. Simon is sort of unofficially streaming every week. Tomorrow he's getting up and running with RU203, which is our basically use Redis as a document database course for searching things. I think it looks like Savannah and Simon are both streaming on Friday, and so is Guy. Guy is pulling in with WebWhimsy and Redis Stack random projects with Guy, which I guess is just whatever he feels like working on that day. I'll be back next week. I'm going to be doing some more work on Redis and NET. And yeah, that's it for today. Thank you all for joining. I'm sorry it's a little bit abbreviated. It's just not practical to work up here right now. And working on my laptop wasn't great last week. So anyway, goodbye, y'all. Thank you for showing up.